Well, that would have been lovely if the stream could have heard. Give it to us one more time, Jesse. The audio is working.
Oh,
Oh
geez.
no.
Hello, my name is Jesse, and yeah, I've been a DM since 2015, and it's been a wild ride. I mostly started because nobody else wanted to DM around me, so I've been a forever DM since then. Love being a player. I got to play actually recently, and it was fantastic. But I also love DMing. I'm a very hyper person, if you couldn't tell. So being able to bounce off of all my players is really fun for me. So yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Length of playing RPG. Ever DM before?
Oh geez. So I'm Sam. I play Cinna. I have been playing since what it had to have been like what 2018 when I actually joined the wonderful world of Dungeons and Dragons when I went over to Jesse's place for an in-person game once with an old friend and acquaintance of mine, Britta. And that I think that was in 2018.
That was about right. Maybe
So
2017, but yeah.
yeah, like 2017, 2018. I've been playing since then. I have never actually DM'd before. I've been a little intimidated to try, but I think having this roundtable discussion might help kind of calm some nerves and maybe encourage me a little bit to get out of my comfort zone of being a player and strap on the boots of being a DM.
Well, yeah, let's encourage that. Sure. Brad, what about
Brad, I play Kertz. Sorry, I'm going through old characters right now. So
You play Kertz?
yeah, no, I'm going through other characters right now. So my eyes were looking at a name that was not my current character. I started playing D&D 2015. Didn't play again till I think 2019, 2018, whenever we started.
This 2018, yeah.
Yeah, 2018, and DM'd about 4 or 5 times, so I'm just a baby DM.
It's the babe.
But I prefer being a player. I have to do much less work.
I mean, you're not wrong.
So Jeremy,
That's me.
tell us about you.
Probably should put my mag next to my mouth. I am Jeremy. I've been playing, I want to say roughly about 8 years, 2015, about the same time Jesse started playing. I started playing at home games, mostly World of Darkness, and then some homebrew systems. And my first real foray into 5e with Jesse in the infamous first campaign. Which was a lot of fun and was exactly what I needed because I was getting sort of DM burnout and some other things were going on in my life that just needed to be distracted from. And it was a great distraction, and I met some beautiful people. That actually leads me to, after we're talking, besides myself, has anybody had any experience either playing in or DMing a different rule system than 5e?
Nope.
I have read a ton of them, and I always think to myself, "Oh, I'll steal this," and then bring it back to 5e. But I've never played in one. I read a lot of Pathfinder, read a lot of Savage Worlds, Call of Cthulhu, etc. So you learn a lot just by reading their systems.
Yeah. So I've played in a very short 3.5 Dungeons and Dragons campaign. It was like a 2-shot, and then we decided to go back to what we were playing. Played a World of Darkness, Vampire the Masquerade, and a little Mage the Ascension. Couple homebrew systems, like I said, and I also have run D&D 5e and the new Stargate RPG that came out a few years ago, and Star Wars Force and Destiny system mixed in with, all the other ones. So that I've been playing around a lot, as you can see.
Now, I'm curious about the Star Wars system. What do you think of it?
I love the Star Wars system. I'm currently running a game right now with 3 Force users and 2 mundanes, and which I was really grateful for because I didn't want to just be wrangling a bunch of superpowered idiots. And it's been great. Rhiannon, who is my wife, plays in that as well, and she plays a bounty hunter, a Mandalorian, and
Of course.
yeah, and she's just killing it. It's great.
Literally.
The thing I love about the Star Wars system, though, is that it's not a D20 system. It's not pass fail. There are positive dice and negative dice, and so you can end up rolling something and have it a positive outcome, but with a negative effect, or you can have a negative outcome, but with a positive effect. So it kind of the whole system is about balance, and it's a lot of fun.
Balance of the Force. Makes sense.
Balance of the Force. Yeah, so yeah, you can make that shot on the BBEG, but you rolled a despair, so the power cell in your gun explodes. Stuff like that.
Oh
Wow. Okay, that's cool. What about the other what do you call it? The starships and fighters.
Oh, Stargate. Starship.
Well, I'm no for Star Wars. Is
Oh,
there?
I find Starship combat to be a little cumbersome.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like it's a remnant of a certain type of TTRPG that I was never really introduced to, and maybe that's why I don't take to it very well. And because I don't take to it very well, my players aren't that interested in it, so it kind of becomes a sort of circular event. But we introduce a TIE fighter chase every once in a while or something like that.
Yeah, I've always wanted to get a good system for 5e for like ship to ship combat, whether that's on the ocean or in space or whatnot. And I know the recent book that just launched did not have it. So I'm always looking for a system that has good ship to ship combat that I can kind of tweak and bring it over to 5e. I'm sure someone's done it. I just haven't looked into it.
Yeah, but the problem with the Star Wars system is that there's a lot of math. So like the silhouette or the size of your ship has a negative effect to like how good your handling is versus how good your speed is, and you have to math all these things kind of on the fly depending on what you're fighting. So and especially if you're in a group of a bunch of people who don't understand it, and your mundane understanding of it has to be the drawn line, then it can get a little messy.
Okay. That kind of leads me to my next question for Brad, Sam, and Jer. Just off the top of my head because of the conversation. How do you guys like crunch in your game in terms of mathematical crunch? Do you guys like just like roll one die and that's it? Or do you like roll one die and if something happens, do this, and if something happens, do that, and a little bit more crunch to that? Or like Pathfinder is known for being crunchy. 5e is kind of known for being less crunchy, mid-tier crunchy. What do you guys think? Let's start with Brad.
I like the mid-tier crunch, where like there's some stuff where I prefer it, like if it's a complicated series of events or something they want to happen kind of happens. But obviously we need a bunch of dice rolls, but I'm kind of more laissez-faire with dice. Or if you can convince me, I could possibly be persuaded without a dice roll.
Okay. Sam, what do you feel?
I think if I am comfortable with a system that's a bit more crunchy, I would probably be just fine. But again, there's that learning curve of like, okay, how much, like, what steps do I need to take to make sure everything's going fluid and smooth? But I don't mind a little bit of crunchy in roles and in events.
Okay.
I think it kind of adds like a little bit of an exciting factor because there's a secondary event that happens besides that role.
Okay,
Like,
Jer. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was filler word.
Okay, Jer.
Yeah, I think as a player, probably mid tier makes the most sense. As a DM, I really feel like you have to tailor it to your. You know, sometimes you have those. You have. The conversation has gone back and forth a lot about like min maxers and are they good or are they not that good, or yada yada yada. But it really depends on if the actions of certain players are causing issues for the rest of the team. So if you have somebody who's just like who loves that crunch but takes 15 minutes to crunch all their numbers and their math on their turn, then that could be detrimental. Everybody else pulls up their phones and is waiting for their turn to start, kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, for me, I would say for online play, like I'm not a fan of crunch, but more crunch online is okay for me because it's all calculated. You click a button and it's all done, and that's what I really like. I've played an epic level one shot in person. Oh my god, slowest thing in the world. And I told my players, I was like, just take the averages. We're not rolling anymore because it was just taking forever because they're rolling like 20d6 on an attack roll, and I just no, we're not doing that. It's too much calculation. Just take the average. And so I would say for crunch, I enjoy crunch if it's on the computer and it can be quickly added and we can quickly find the result. But if it's in person, definitely not. I want rules light to mid tier.
Yeah, that absolutely makes 100%. Okay. Well, I got another question here. Has anybody here been a part of a TPK?
Think we all have?
Yep. Well, Jesse, as a player, have you ever been a part of a TPK?
I have not.
Okay. Just DM'd for one.
Just just DM for 3 actually.
Oh, yeah. Couple. Okay. Yeah. So let's chat a little bit about that. So Cinna doesn't have any DMing experience per se. Let's start with you as a player, Cinna. What was your how did let's go over like how one of your most memorable TPKs went, and like how did you feel in the moment? Were you afraid that Jesse was ending the game there, or like what went through your mind?
How did you read my mind? So, like, okay, but truth be told, the Ancient Void Dragon was genuinely one of the most memorable TBKs. There's been moments where in other groups I've been like our group has been very close to TPKing, but it was through some dumb luck and some really good rolls that we weren't. However, I do appreciate a solid true blue TPK. And I was ready to throw my character sheet into the fire. Um, he, you were very merciful, Jesse, and I appreciate that because this is the first like spell heavy character I had ever worked with, and I was kind of getting like somewhat of an idea. I'm definitely not meant to be a spellcaster. I've realized that now, but it's like, oh, come on. I just want to keep working a little bit more with this character. I don't want to have them go away. And thank you for finding a loophole to keep us going so we didn't true blue TPK. And God, it was like, I was just sitting there holding my drink like, huh, this wasn't how I expected it to go.
So
I guess this is how we die.
a question on that, Jesse. Was there any mechanic in the Rise of the Drow book for the God of Death showing up and being like, hey, you're kind of working in tandem with me? Or was that all just like, I don't want to have you guys start new characters and find out ways to tie them into the current arc?
So there is actually a entire chapter based around the void, and the pale bleak void, I think, or the bleak void is what the chapter is called. And it completely, it's all about if your players die somewhere along the track, run this right here. And it's the pale bleak void, and it has like a mini adventure to go through, and you beat Polyhamu, etc., etc. And now, where you died, it didn't say, hey, they're going to die after the Void Dragon. It was heavily implied, especially when I talked to the writer. He was like, that is exactly why I put that adventure in there, because I assumed if they went after an ancient Void Dragon, they're gonna die, and you're gonna need something to pick them back up. But yeah, so it was actually in the book, ready to go. In terms of the God of Death, no, that was from Epic Legacy, and I wanted to set up epic levels, so I threw Fanuriel in there, which I thought was fitting anyway, and yeah.
So okay, but yeah, so did we miss some like clues that that fight was going to be as bad as? I mean, obviously he put that safe hold in there in case you went to this cult and decided to break through and try and fight this person, but.
Mhm.
I remember us suspecting, oh, it's probably a dragon. Oh, it's probably at least an adult dragon because of the level that we were. We didn't think that we would be skipping up to a level, 1925. And
No.
then there's you showed the picture, and me being very familiar with the Tome of Beasts, realized, oh, that's a fucking void dragon. And I think I even said while we were playing, I was like, oh, well, Jeremy's shitting his pants, but Elora just was like stalwart. So yeah, did we miss some like hints that, oh, you probably should turn around now, this is a really bad idea, or was it just like, well, we'll see what happens?
So the way that Rise of the Drow is set up is completely sandbox, and there I dropped a lot of hints. Maybe I didn't emphasize enough the power behind it, but there were tons of hints about it being a void dragon. But it's all sandbox. So if you guys would have stumbled on it at 5th level, at 10th level, and 15th level, it doesn't matter. That's what would have happened. And so it was just sandbox, and if you would have defeated it, great. If not, well, then that's where you would have gone.
Okay.
I still remember seeing the first hit. I was like, I don't think we're supposed to be here.
Don't waste it, die.
Oh man, yeah, that was definitely memorable. Brad, beside you can pick up on the void dragon for your experience with it, or if you want to talk about another TPK that you remember.
Well, I actually have DM'd a TPK for this.
Oh,
It was intentional. And there's a reason. It was when I was in college. I had a bunch of friends who wanted to learn, and I was like, okay, well, we're gonna do a small thing just so you guys get used to it, and also I'm not gonna help you, so you guys are on your own creating a character. So I'd already decided it was going to be a TPK, but I wanted them to, go through making their own character. And a lot of them figured out, hey, I don't know how to make a fucking character. So, but it was like a 4-hour session. So unfortunately, they did get a little attached to the characters they made, even though they kind of realized they sucked. I think it was like 4 fighters and 1 wizard. So they definitely appreciated the TPK because it also introduced them to death saves and stuff like that. But it was intentional for new players, so it wasn't anything particularly egregious.
Now, when you say they sucked, what do you mean by that?
High charisma fighters with no strength or
Oh,
dex
jeez.
So
Learning.
constitution.
the opposite of min-maxing, but
Yes.
not also just knowing the basics of the game.
Yes, I did help them out with the second characters. But
Okay, so you made a second. I was wondering. I was like, did you just
Yes.
leave them to dry and just
Yeah.
walk away after that? You
No.
monster!
I told them it
Y'all
was
are
like,
on
hey,
your own.
we're gonna make 2 characters. One you guys are gonna do, and then I'll help you with the next ones. Just to, like, kind of throw them in, see if anyone was gonna sink or swim, and they all sank.
did you
But,
did you get to do like the villain fade out, like and as the last of the light leaves your eyes, you see the villain cackling in the background as the lightning crashes, or you're like, nope,
Yeah,
you're dead.
yeah, they didn't really appreciate it. They thought they were hot shit. So
It's a good humbling
all.
experience.
Now, are you still friends
Yeah.
with them?
yes,
Okay, good.
and we did end up running Curse of Strahd. That
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
that's start. Yeah, kind of.
Did
It
they
was
get all the way
interesting.
through?
No,
Oh god.
no, they didn't die. They I don't know if they made it better or worse.
That's not a very encouraging statement.
As much as I tried to push the point home, it was like watching a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Hey, some games are
purpose.
like that.
Jesse,
Yes.
what about you? Which was your most memorable TPK?
So obviously the Void Dragon was amazing. But I also kind of knew like it would almost definitely lead to a death, a TPK. I just also want to preface this with Brad has lost the most characters out of anyone, and every single one is, I don't know if it's like, at first it's terrible and it's so sad, and then it's just hilarious. Brad,
It's
all of
almost
your
ironic.
characters. Yeah, it's almost like
In a
every
morbid
campaign
way.
we need a Brad character to just die.
The sacrifice the gods demand.
Exactly. But yeah, the TPK was great. I figured out early that you guys were not gonna win, so I was just like, okay, prepare that chapter right now because it's gonna happen. Yeah.
Although you weren't sure after that first hit in combat, though.
I do not recall the first hit. What was it? You like
I crit
dumped
crit
everything.
and smite. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, I'm not gonna spoil it. All right. So there were backup plans for the Void Dragon, not for me, but for the Void Dragon had backup plans. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I hate killing characters. Full disclosure, I fucking hate it. And that's why whenever I kill Brad's character, I feel bad, and then it's funny afterwards.
I tell you to do it.
Well, and then you also introduced a really nice homebrew rule with character deaths, where if you fail your last death save or you are struck outright, you get your final breath, which always hits, and if it crits, then you do max damage. I think it is.
Yeah, it's a rule of cool. So you get to choose how you want to make your final breath. So if you take your final breath, you take your sword and chuck it at a stalactite up in the air, and it comes down. It does crazy damage to whatever you're like. That's the kind of idea of your last breath action would do. And yeah, I love it, and it makes me a little bit more inclined to kill you guys. And also the ritual resurrection is a better way, in my opinion, to get you guys back. And I want you guys to have stake in it. And if you guys die, I want you to realize that you might not come back with this res because there's a ritual that you need to do, etc. So, anywho, Jeremy, what about you? TPKs.
Honestly, right now I'm having trouble remembering any other TPKs within our group. Can you refresh my memory? Besides that, did we TPK?
What was the last campaign?
No.
I'm looking at the picture behind me, and
We haven't TPK'd.
No, you haven't TPK'd, but you definitely had a moment where a few of you died at the very end.
I will probably be the one who say it was probably me.
It was definitely Mwad. Mwad Dib definitely broke the Staff of Power over his shin.
Yeah, almost took out Drago too. That was impressive.
Yeah,
that was thing. I don't remember, but I think maybe me and Drago were the only two left standing after that. We had to like do mass heals and drink potions immediately. It was pretty bad.
It was a very close, like, total hard to kill. But yeah, Jeremy, anything else on TPKs?
No, and unless somebody else wants to jump in with a question, I was gonna kind of lead that into PC death, and this is, as a DM, either like not only how do you like deal with PC death, but we could even talk about like how do you deal with PvP within play that could lead to death, or as a player, what was like a more notable death for one of your characters, and did it stick, Brad?
Why are you singling me out? I don't understand.
Well, so just a little background for anybody listening now or watching it in the future. In our previous campaign, which started with Curse of Strahd, Brad played a cleric by the name of Byron, and my character was the druid, had asked really early on, hey, if you die, do you want me to attempt to revive you? Because everybody's got different beliefs and personal religions and stuff like that. I had forgotten that that Byron had said, no, if I die, I want you to leave me. I've already seen what the afterlife is like in this place. I don't think I can come back from it. And later on, resurrected and was like, hey, buddy, we need you. We need our cleric. I can't do all the healing. And he came back, and it was a reincarnation.
He
He came back as a, I think, either a dwarf or a halfling.
Something small.
He was a tiefling player than that. And he was like, I was in fucking heaven with my god, you asshole. You brought me back to this hellscape. And yeah, so that is not my personal PC death, but that Byron's death and resurrection were very memorable.
I did actually enjoy that when it happened. I actually didn't intend for him to die. I just put far too much faith in the dice.
Oh,
I have
foolish
learned not
ass.
to do that.
Didn't you like
Yeah.
charge after a dragon by yourself?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Brad-
Alone?
Brad got a really
great
bad
plan.
problem of trying to solo dragon on any character that he could.
I was gonna say, on any
This campaign.
aspect of like charging dragons, it's any aspect.
Yeah,
tried to
actually,
butt
Well,
charge
you
just
and
last time.
Dan.
don't forget Carme.
Yep,
That
got
was a
naked
different
and tried
situation.
to sleep with the dragon.
That was different.
Uh-huh.
That was
Which
love,
dragon?
Daddy.
I was trying to secure passage.
Uh-huh.
So was
And
he.
the best
But
part-
Yes.
The best part was that he didn't know it was a dragon until he took off his crown and he shapeshifted back into a dragon form. And it just so happened to be a dragon that Brad was trying to not die from.
my goodness.
Ironic.
It's okay. It's okay. We all have our types.
Anyway, back to the question at hand. Let's start with Brad first for what was the question? I already forgot. I'm sorry.
So player, let me just actually emphasize one more. Player death, because this also has to do with Brad. In our
God damn it.
in our first campaign, Brad had a character called Brit Brap or Brit Brapina
Oh.
because they had
God
a sex
damn it.
chain, and they had died. And was it Jesse that was playing? I think Jesse was playing a secondary character, for like a one shot or something. And that character died. We brought their body back to our base, resurrected
I know
Brit
exactly
Bap,
what this is.
and then dumped the other body into his grave.
Oh, that black dragonborn.
And we were like, yeah, we haven't known you that well. We're not going to spend the resources to resurrect you, so bye.
I remember that.
So the actual
It was a
situation
good
is
filler.
crazy.
Oh,
So
no.
that's when we got the deck of many things,
Okay.
and Brip Brap pulled the Void card, so it just sucked his soul out. And we were carrying the body around, and I started playing as a secondary character. And we went to go clear out a dragon.
Always a dragon.
The poison dragon killed my character, and I was the only one who died.
What did we say? He's got a problem with dragons.
Oh man, I forgot about that. Jesus.
Yeah, but like I have that because I have a very picturesque imagination. But I just have that picture of us all standing on a hill in the monastery and like you pulling you out and then just rolling another body into the grave.
Should we change
Whoops.
the tombstone name? Nah.
Yeah. Yeah, so the question was player death as a player. How do you respond to that? Do you have a memorable death? And or if you've DM'd player death, how have you DM'd it in the past and how does it affect you?
Let's go to Sam. Sam, what do you want to say for that?
I feel like the first time I ever experienced my character, I guess technically dying, I think it was probably I don't think it was Seraphing. I'm pretty sure it was Spider. And just sitting there and being helpless for the first time, like, I can't do anything. There's nothing I can do. I'm dead. What do I do? It's just like you don't realize, like, oh, that was sudden. Huh. I don't want to make a new character.
And you've got
Like,
Drago freaking out in the background, and then
I was gonna say, and then there's my husband like panicking in the background. But yeah, it's strange how like weirdly attached you get to these characters, and then the minute they die, you're just like, please no, please no, I like this one. Can we not? But I think as like obviously as you get more and more powerful, the concept of death kind of fades as you become like a little more powerful each time. But having those like consequences, like Jesse has a bit of a homebrew going where you have a bit higher consequence every time you die, and at every higher level you are, it's harder to bring back. I think that's a good way of keeping things a little more fair than if it was just like, well, you're dead, here you go, you're back up and at it. Like, I think
that
it just builds more of a story and more stakes.
yeah, I've heard of DMs just like if that killing blow is coming in, rather than saying you're dead, they'll just look at you and say, "I need you to roll 4d6 for me," and you roll it, and you'll be like, "I need you to roll another 4d6 for me," and you just go 6 times. It's like, okay, well, here's your new stats, figure it out.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
That is rough.
Yeah, mine actually. I'll tell you is about one it does that isn't involved in our game whatsoever. In my first foray into tabletop RPG was in the World of Darkness system, and I had started playing this character at the beginning of the campaign, first character of the campaign, and he lasted like a year through that entire campaign into the second half of that campaign. Became a vampire, dodged death more times than you can count with some just ridiculous Indiana Jones shit, and eventually got captured. And it was supposed to be this whole arc where my brother was going to come in and play with us, and he was like a monster hunter type class who had caught me and caged me, and then I'd have to convince him to join our side kind of thing. But my character was just an impulsive asshole. So I tried to dig my way out of prison, found this contraption underground, and my DM was like, it looks like a small golden egg with like ridges on it, and I was like, investigate. It's like it looks like it can turn, and he's like, you turn it, you hear like a soft clicking on the inside, like gears moving, and I was like, okay, and he's like, there's a button on it, and I was like, okay, I pressed the button. And he says,
Oh God.
are you sure you pressed the button? I said, yeah, of course I pressed the button. Why wouldn't I press the button? Turns out it was just a holy hand grenade that had been left there.
My God.
Destroyed, it completely incinerated my vampire character, and I was at a loss for words, laughing internally, but also like, I have played this guy for over a year. I have so much invested in him, and there's absolutely no coming back from this. But it felt like a poetic justice for him, as he had escaped death so many times.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, Jesse, you mean, I think the only times you've played characters that you don't really care one way or the other if they do die. You haven't really had a chance to,
What's your most emotionally invested NPC you've ever played?
There you go. That's a good question.
Ooh. I really liked Ashley from our Prince of the Apocalypse game. I really liked Mia from Rise of the Drow. And yeah, I mean, in terms of DMing for people that have players that have been killed, I don't like. I never liked killing players. I'm getting better at it, but same thing like what you said. You get invested in a character. I like we have conversations all the time about each other's characters and like, hey, can I do this with my character? Hey, do you like this backstory? Hey, do you whatever? And like I read it and I like it, and then I plan things. And I'm like, ooh, I could do this kind of adventure to like really bring out this side of the backstory, and then they die, and all of my plans just like, well, I guess I gotta fucking go back to the drawing board. So I don't like killing characters, but again, I'm getting better at it. I'm getting more comfortable with it, and I want to be better at it. But in terms of playing a character, Yeah, most of the time I'm just like, fuck it, I'll just be the chaos character who opens every door and opens every single chest because I don't care.
And yeah, you may not even remember this, but if you hadn't had that uncomfortability and that mercy for your players when we first met, the whole Diav's entire storyline wouldn't have continued.
Yeah.
By extension, Katarina would have never happened.
Do you remember when Diav, I gave him 3 checks to not fall into the chasm, and then you used a bonus action to Misty Step? So
Yep.
Oh my god, I remember that.
if we did rules as written, that wouldn't have happened. But
Well,
but
I was speaking
Yep.
even earlier than that. It was like our
Oh,
first
okay.
or second session when we were in the desert, and I think Brad was there. I think it was me, Brad, and Greg, maybe
And
Dan.
Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan was there.
And there was a troll in the cave, and the troll, I'm a little level 1 wizard, beat me senseless.
Oh no.
And literally took me over my max health under 0. And I
do remember this.
I said to Jesse, is like, does that mean this character's dead? And you're like, no, let's just say you're unconscious for now. And that was Diav, and so much boiled out of that character. So it was, if that mercy hadn't been there, then these, at least 2 of my own storylines wouldn't have never happened.
Wow. Brad, what about you? Player deaths.
Which one?
Exactly.
Favorite.
Oh,
I actually would have to say in our first campaign, it was technically 2 player deaths at the same time because I had the second soul weird thingamajig going on with Brit Brat, and we got to I don't remember what plane it was, but it was with I think Broodmother.
Yeah, it was one of the planes of the event.
Yeah. And to free Katarina, there was a spike that came up and was like, all right, you need to put in 3 souls. And I was like, well, I got 2. So we're going to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was a cool way to use something that I didn't really utilize as well as I probably should have.
Your soul or?
Well,
No.
no, having the 2 souls thing just kind of shoved one off to the side because I was still a baby at the time.
Did the forced alignment change factor into that?
Yes.
So
Okay.
because that was outside of our outside of this recorded campaign online, give a little backstory. So you were playing a rogue named Brip Rap who got turned into a woman, so we called her Brit Brapina. And you were secretly, well, maybe not so secretly. You were what, chaotic evil or lawfully?
Very evil.
Evil.
Just evil.
Just evil.
Evil.
And at one point, we were trying to go to the Abyss to basically save my character's daughter as sort of endgame content. And we had a ship that could travel between the planes. Really cool ship. Jesse, did you pull that from somewhere else, or was that a completely?
It was actually lore based. Yes, it is based off of the lore, and it's a ship that has an endless number of planes inside of the ship, and it was lost somewhere in like the 376th level of the Abyss. And yeah, I based it off of the lore of D&D.
Yeah, so we found that. Was that always your plan for us to find it, or was it like a random chance and we just happened to?
If I remember correctly, I had a random table of a D100, and you guys rolled that. So yeah, it was random. And then when you rolled it, you guys landed on the ship, and I think I had to end the session early because I was like, "Hey guys, there's a lot in this ship that I am not prepared for," and I wasn't sure if you. Yeah, it was a whole mini dungeon, so I said, "Hey, we need to like stop it for tonight so I can prepare."
Yeah, so
but yeah, it was a D100.
Rip Rap Bina stole the ship with one of the other people and decided to fly it to the Nine Hells to ask, I believe, Tiamat. Was it Tiamat you were asking for help?
No, it was Tiamat. Ask Tiamat for help against the Beholder Mommy.
And then Asmodeus was also there.
Yeah.
And what's the Tales from Avernus? There was a chick there too.
Zariel.
Zariel.
Zariel, yeah. And then On the opposite end of the gameplay, what had happened was person that Sam referenced earlier, Britta, her character was leaving the campaign, and oh no, she didn't leave until later. But her character had like 2 wishes left from a wish card she had, and she just granted them to me. And I talked to Jesse. I was like, "Hey, I want to wish that Brip Rapina has a change of heart." And we Jesse rolled a roll of cool, and all of a sudden, Brip Rapina's alignment changed from evil evil to good good.
In front of these 9 hells devils. Literally right then and there.
Made it up by the skin of his teeth, and then sacrificed. And I think I've told you guys all this, but my plan was, if that didn't work and Brip Rapina had lived, Diov was going to just true polymorph him into a goldfish and keep him on the desk for the rest.
As one does.
Yeah. Rip Rap was not a good character. As in, a good character, but not good guy.
He was fun to play, but not very good to his fellow players.
I just
You
remember
bastard,
Brip Rap just winning at every fucking roll. Just I
Yeah.
couldn't do anything to him.
It was great.
Yeah, ugh, rogues. And
That's
they
sort
made rogues even more overpowered.
sort of a parallel conversation to this. The idea of PvP, and especially PvP that can lead to death. Now, I know that Sam, you haven't DM'd anything. I don't remember many instances of PvP outside from like, one shots that don't really count, where we're summoned to a god plane and forced to fight each other. But I do remember back in campaign 1, Eov was going through a transformation because of a potion and had a crazy arm and like was going bipolar kind of thing, and actually attacked you at one. Do you recall that?
I don't know if I was there for that one. Actually, no, I do vaguely remember it now that you're mentioning it.
Yeah, I think I threw
Yeah,
a
I
fireball
do.
at you or something.
Oops.
My hero.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, if you did remember that, I would ask you to talk, to that point. But I mean, Brad, Jesse, have either of you dealt with like heavy PvP that could lead to death before?
Brad, go ahead.
No, surprisingly. I mean, we haven't really done any of that. I never had to deal with that in any of the campaigns I DM'd. I do remember helping someone playtest a character and realizing some classes are going to whoop other classes' ass horrifically.
Are you talking about when Ashrin was there and it was like one of the first sessions too?
No, just when Greg was playtesting Aarakocra Monk.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right.
Man.
I
Oh, I
do
think I
remember
remember
this.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember this.
I mean, it was also rogues are not good for one-on-one combat, so
Mhm.
nah. But he
Unless
got
you're like a
beat like a
swashbuckler.
redheaded stepchild. Yeah. Yeah. But it's pretty interesting because it kind of gave me a little bit of insight of like, oh Jesus Christ. Like, I wouldn't want to fuck with a PC if this was real life. I don't want to die like this.
In terms of DMing PvP, I generally I don't like to allow PvP unless both parties are totally cool with it and they both understand like the ramifications. And I make sure that like, hey, are you okay with that PC killing your PC and vice versa? And if they're both okay with it, then have at it. But I always want to protect people, my players specifically, just in case they don't realize like how OP like another character might be, or how hard a battle might it be, or whatnot. Most of the time, it ends like we're all friends, so it works out. But I just want to make sure all the players are okay with it.
So, yeah, I've had 2 like really memorable points of 2 different camps. One was a 5e campaign with all my friends. It was their first time playing, and my surrogate little brother, John, wanted to play Chaotic Evil. From the beginning, him and I were trading texts of like what he was doing behind the scenes, kind of thing, and I was kind of weaving him into everybody else's backstories that even they didn't know about. That he was basically an agent of the Spider Queen that was sowing chaos to bring her mission.
How dare he?
And then just before the final BBEG fight, they walked through a room that had anti-magic in it, and the illusion around his vestige from the Spider Queen disabled. So they were all able to see him wearing the Spider Queen's armor. And
Awkward.
yeah, they basically just force caged
Whoops.
him, fought the BBEG the entire time he's force cages. He couldn't do anything. He was a ranger. And then just slaughtered him. He was totally down for it because he knew it was going to happen from the beginning. So that's like setting expectations for that. It's like, if you're going to play a shitty character, just be aware you could die and there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. The other, which was kind of like a very contemplative moment for me as a DM, was early in my DM career. I was playing a Star Wars game, and at the beginning, or at the end of the first like mini campaign, which is like one of the official ones, they fight like a dark side force user, and he's really tough battle because it's the first time they're fighting somebody with a lightsaber, and basically they were all extremely hurt. And the NPC Jedi person who had pulled them there to save her, they all went into back to tanks. She had a power that could reach out with her mind and connect to other people's minds. So I had this whole thing set up where they were basically sharing a dream where they were transporting between each other's backstory. And sorry?
Oh, just that's kind of cool.
Oh yeah. And unfortunately, I had one player who was constantly late or wouldn't show up. And even when he did show up, he was kind of not aggressive, but kind of abrasive with other characters. And he had said a couple times, like, I'm sorry I keep showing up late. If you need to kill off my character, you can. Just show up on time. We want to play with you. Unfortunately, his backstory was that he was part of Order 66, killing all the Jedi. And one of the other players was a guy who wanted to be a Jedi, and so he basically passed some checks, woke up out of his coma, and slaughtered the guy while he was still sleeping. And I got a lot of flack from the guy, even though he had already told me I could kill off his character. I was like, hey, I gave you a fighting chance. I rolled all your dice for you. You weren't here. This is what happened, sorry. So that was I probably, if it had come to that, like where I'm at now in my DMing career, I would probably be like, all right, well, if this is going to resolve as a PvP battle between you and him, we're going to stop the session here and we're going to wait till next session, give him an opportunity to be here to fight for his character.
Nice. I think that's fair.
Now, you said this was early in your career of a DM?
Yes. Yeah, I hadn't run any 5e games at that point, I don't believe. I had just started running that Star Wars camp. We were maybe like 6 or 7 sessions in.
All right.
Thoughts?
I think it's fair, and I think you were very considerate of giving him time to defend his own character.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays I would always want the character to be there for something like their death. Actually, that leads me to another thing of character death. So I had a character a player who wouldn't be there for one of the sessions, but he wanted to kill off his character. He was going through a bad breakup, and he said, hey, my ex-girlfriend and I, we made that character together, and I kind of just don't want to play that character anymore. I want to make a new character. I was like, cool, can I kill your character? He's like, absolutely, do it, please. And I was like, cool, you're gonna go down one hell of a... So I organized this dragon battle, and he was a monk, an Aarakocra monk, and he flew up with the dragon. The dragon had very little health left, and he tried to stun the dragon, and the dragon would attack him, and kind of they both fell from the sky. It was very epic, and all of the other players had no idea. They were like, did Jesse just kill his character? Did he's not even here? How did Jesse just kill that character? It was great.
Magic.
But he knew ahead of time that I was going to kill it, so it worked out.
Traumatized everybody else.
Yes, I traumatized everyone else.
Just one of those excuse you moments.
And none of them ever missed a session again.
No kidding. Well, I guess I have a question. So for everyone who has been a DM, what do you feel like is like what you would call your signature as a DM? Like what, like if you use a specific monster, or if you like to have a specific situation that leads to like an adventure or a side quest. Like what do you think is something that you almost always put into your campaigns or your sessions as a DM?
Brad?
It's not anything I do, but apparently I'm really good at rolling with walking into the game turning into town management.
You damn poli-sci people.
Yeah, apparently I'm really good at that part.
Nice.
But
Brad is a poli-science major for anyone who cared.
Somehow, it's not even something I push. It just happens. They're like, hey, can we do something that doesn't seem like it's going to lead to something else? I'm like, yeah,
You
sure,
can
why not? And then like a
try.
session later, I'm like, oh, motherfucker. Not even that. I had a player who was like, hey, we're going to hunt goblins. Can I get a rope? And I was like, yeah, it's like 10 gold. You can get a rope. It's fucking rope. Yeah, go for it. The next session, he was like, all right, so we captured like 5 goblins. We're going to make a town. I was like, oh, okay. All right. They made all the rolls. All goddamn nat 20s. I don't understand.
Did they at least have a formal government to rule over this goblin town, or was
Slave
it just
goblin town.
chaos?
Thank you very much.
Indentured servitude. They did pay him, but not enough to live.
Oh god, it's even worse.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very
They knew what they were doing.
1900s company town.
Dear Lord.
Yeah. It was interesting. They ran a surprisingly good town outside of that.
Yay,
it was
I
very
guess.
I'm just glad that campaign ended naturally and I didn't have to continue with it.
Okay. Sam, would you like to answer your own question?
Well, I've never DM'd before.
Do you have a signature for being a player then?
Thinking I have a good idea for a character and then it completely goes down the drain as I fumble with the thought of having to actually play said character. Like, words don't come out of my mouth the same way they're formed in my brain.
I think you
Inevitably-
play wonderfully.
Oh God, I don't think this Cinna. Let's just put it this way: Cinna did not turn into the bard I was expecting her to, but you gotta adapt, adjust, and overcome.
What did you expect Cinna to turn into?
I don't know. Have you guys ever seen the show The Magicians?
I have not.
I have. We've talked extensively on the Magician's Meet.
Okay, because it's like I was hoping if you ever watch The Magicians, it's on Netflix. Highly recommend. It's very good. But I was trying to basically be Margot from The Magicians.
Magicians is basically sexy Harry Potter for you.
Nice.
In college. But it's like that's what she was in my brain, but then when I actually was playing, as her, it turned into, well, this isn't what college taught me life was going to be like outside of, these sheltered walls that I've lived in. Fuck. And I panic, and she's turned into quite a sloppy player, but I almost love her more for it, because it's like,
You fall in
shit,
love with
this
the
is
first luscious lesbian who looks your way.
basically.
Nothing
And
wrong with that.
no, and I find it kind of ironic that both Jeremy and Ree, who are happily married, have both you know, seduced me, and I've become their spouse in game for both of them. And I don't know what that says about me.
To be fair, we've also run a side campaign where Brad, myself, and Rhiannon were three voraciously hungry appetite sex throuple.
Wait,
just-
what was this?
You don't remember this?
You were the DM. We did the thing with the unseen servant.
Yes, yes. Oh my god. Okay, yes.
With
Now
the
I
Was I
multiple
remember.
not
of student
here for
servants.
this?
So it was. I
Was
was
this
playing.
pre-me?
I think I was playing.
No, you were missing, I think.
I was playing
Aw,
a
man.
Vitalkin sorcerer with a flying broom. My wife was playing a human monk. Brad, do you remember what you were?
No, I have no idea.
I just remember two of us had unseen servant, and we wanted to get information from this bar and we just took her to her room, tied her up, and we just did so much sexual stuff all together.
Consensually.
Consensually.
It was consensually.
It was the four of us and two unseen servants, so it's technically a six-way.
It was an orgy, let's be real.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Rhiannon and I have gotten horny with pretty much everybody.
We just have to get Dan.
I don't know. I feel like at this point I just want, like, low key just want to have my character get seduced by everyone in the group at some point.
You're next, Brad.
Has Dan ever
just
done
for
any romance?
shits. I don't think he has.
Okay.
Well,
I've
that's-
never noticed.
To be fair, he made a really stinky character this time
That's
around.
true. That's true.
First campaign he made Smithy, who was like the Barney of blacksmith. He was like so sweet. You just like there was no way to sexualize him in any way. And my brain is a little fuzzy. Did Dan play much with us during campaign 2?
Yeah, he played in Curse of Strahd. I can go back to what his character. I don't even remember it was Jabroki.
Jabroki, the rogue who's hard to hit. Yeah, I remember.
And then he played the stinky Kaelor.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, so that's the other thing. Jabroki was like a little halfling, like, oh, I'm a little mischief maker. So yeah, he hasn't played a character that's like I just need to put my tongue on that. Yet we'll see what happens. Maybe he'll be a ladies man or a sirs woman in the next campaign.
How do we always get to...
What about you, Jesse? What's your signature?
If you guys haven't noticed, let me first ask you.
Well, no.
What do you think my signature is?
Dragons.
Well, for you, Brad.
Teetering between, God damn it, don't ruin the work I've put in to make this challenging for you, and okay, maybe I made this a little too challenging for you. And
That's everybody.
Say,
that's every DM's too.
Yeah, that really is every DM.
When I say a little too challenging, I mean you're putting middle grade elementary level puzzles in.
For Brad, yes, that's dragons. No, if you've noticed, I really love golems and constructs. For whatever reason, I just really enjoy putting them in my campaigns, and I just love crazy wizards making shit, artificers and stuff like that. It's just so much fun. And I've tried to do mystery, and I really am bad at it, and I actually am going to try to be better at it for something in the future. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But really, it's golems and constructs. I just love them. I would say that's my signature is crazy people who like to make shit.
Right, the mad inventor.
Yeah.
For myself, I early on, I liked the Critical Role run of how do you want to do. I always changed it to flavor this for me. Like, how's this kill go? Flavor it for me. Paint me a word picture, kind of thing. Mostly because I think it draws your characters into the theater of the mind that's being developed, and even if it's somebody who's not able to fully articulate in a very artistic way what they want to do, they can at least start the story, and you as the DM can ride that wave out into a proper story arc for someone. But I also love huge lover of the Tome of Beast books, and they're one of the most memorable fights I ever created that made me want to use these people over and over. Were these undead creatures called Disamortum, and they are large undead with like hip bone masks on and a third arm, and they basically walk through like battlefields and graveyards, cutting up dead bodies and putting their bones into a sack so that they can basically create undead constructs.
Barry's
And
cousins?
yeah, pretty much. And the horror part of it is like, you get kind of, I feel, numb to, oh, he swings an axe at your head, or he thrusts his spear towards you. When an undead comes running at you on all fours, tackles you to the ground, and starts sawing off your leg, it puts a different kind of fear into your players. That's like, oh, this is a different type of fight. It did also help that fight that one of the players was playing an undead creature, and the cleric immediately used turn undead. All of the bad undead passed, and then the player character failed and started running in the opposite direction. So yeah, but I love those. And then there's one other in the Tome of Beasts called the Grim Gesture. Are you familiar with this at all? Anyone?
Yes, I am familiar.
Grim Gestures can use their reaction when someone casts a healing spell to turn the healing into damage. So you have one of those stealth in a very peculiar situation. Wait for a druid or cleric to cast, heal all or mass healing, and then use your reaction to turn that into damage and watch it tick away at your players. Can be a really useful tool if you want to, again, if you're installing like a fear aspect or a horror aspect into
Now,
Yeah, no thanks.
to answer this question from my perspective to you all, it sounds like I've known Jeremy for a while. I feel like, Jeremy, you always love horror / aberration, mind flayer type,
sure.
like cosmic horror is definitely what I feel like you love to do, especially with Katarina. It sounds like Brad is more like an Acquisitions Incorporated sort of guy. Would you find that accurate, both of you, Jeremy and Brad?
Oh yeah, I love it from Beyond the Void.
Yeah.
Now, Sam, sorry.
Mhm.
What would you think? What do you like playing in? Or would you run? What do you think? What kind of genre? We've done
I don't
gothic horror with
know.
Curse of Strahd, epic fantasy. Yeah, we've done a few different types of genres.
I don't know, because I feel like because I only was able to make it halfway through when you guys were running Princes of the Apocalypse. So I don't know how, if I would have been there for the full amount, if that would change my perspective on that kind of campaign. But I feel like I like low-key do kind of like more the gothic horror vibe, but at the same time being able to fight a dragon is kind of nice and not as creepy. I don't know. I
So,
think it depends on the character, because I feel like I'm a bit of a chameleon when it comes to like oh, what genre do you like? Well, I don't know. I think it depends on who's running it and who you're with and how well the campaign is run with the group you're a part of, because you can have a really fun campaign and it's, you know, just like modern people stuck in medieval times, or you could have like this super high epic fantasy where, you know, no one's cooperating with each other and you're just feeling existential dread of like, dear lord, why did I agree to this?
You can also have like what is supposed to be a horror, you know, gothic horror, and your players turn it into a, you know, a circus show.
Oh,
So-
for
Like
sure.
Brad was saying, yeah.
I mean, there's a group I see on TikTok every once in a while that's playing Curse of Strahd, and it's all laughs all the time, and I'm like, yeah, maybe that's the perfect table for them. I would not want to be part of that table. You know, it's a serious setting, it's serious shit. I like to play serious games with a little bit of comedy thrown in.
Now, in terms of homebrewing, is there anything that you are particularly proud of? And Sam, I know that we've talked about homebrewed stuff. I'll give you a minute to think about some like items and feats and things or spells. But Jeremy, is there anything in particular that you are proud of in terms of homebrewing?
I allow usually a lot of homebrew in my home games, because not everybody has access to every D&D book, and there is a entire universe of homebrew out there. That being said, a lot of it requires tempering because some of it's made to be like, oh, here's an epic boon for this one character that's been playing with me for years. You don't give that to a level 1, you know, or first time gamer. In terms of homebrew, I'm actually really proud of both Elora and Katarina. Elora was something that sort of me and Jess, we took the Blood and Doom source guide for creating an anti-paladin and sort of changed some aspects of it up. And then of course Barry was something that I was like, I want to create a fucking weird ass undead construct, and Jesse was like, give me 24 hours, motherfucker, let's see what we can do. And then instantly regretted it after he gave it to me.
I did.
I was like, oh, let's go find some humans to kill, this will be fun. But Katarina, I remember just like wanted to play a druid, but I didn't want to play a moon druid, and all the other druids kind of seemed blah to me. And I was just coasting through the homebrews on D&D Beyond, and I saw one that was like, oh, you know, I changes into a different type of creature, yada yada yada, and I was like, oh, that could be fun. So I created the Circle of the Tainted one, where she could turn into aberrations, and Jesse was like, that sounds fucking delicious, let's get it done. So yeah, I'm particularly proud of the all of the fucking aberration wild shapes that I had to come up with for that character, and it really lent well to the gothic horror feel that we were playing in, because especially early on, anytime she would change, she would just be screaming in agony, and it would you know, affect the group a little bit, because they're like, oh god, why is she doing it? Why is she letting her body pop and contort like that? And I got to make really fun sounds on the microphone that made Cinna squeals.
Thanks. Yeah.
Sam, do you recall anything that we've homebrewed together, or anything like that that you are particularly proud of or really enjoyed?
I think it wasn't something we talked about, Jesse, per se, but I really I think I became too way more emotionally attached to Barry than I thought I would, because I would not expect me in any way, shape, or form to be affectionate towards a mangly pile of bones, and yet he's my baby, he's my son, and I love him, even though he's not like my creation or my idea. It's like being having the character relationship between Barry and Cinna and Elora was just like, this is a weird little family we've got, but it's ours. And kind of seeing how effective and I don't know, I guess affectionate Barry was kind of unexpected because I just figured it was going to be one of those like, oh, it's just this big scary monster that's going to follow us for a while. Okay, cool.
I think once Barry started mugging the non-existent camera, I think that's where they started to turn.
Brad, any homebrew that you are particularly proud of, or things that we've worked on together that you really enjoyed?
I'd have to go with things that we worked on together. Mostly Muad'Dib's soul stealing. I don't remember how it came about, but I think I was going through just like miscellaneous items to look for something. I happened upon like a soul coin, and like I read up on it. I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to like put into a character instead of it just being like I guess, quest reward or something, or like something you find in a dungeon. So I was like, so I remember asking you, and you were like, yeah, okay, let's do this. And I think it was like the first time you're like, all right, we're gonna have to dumb that down a little bit. That's a little bit too powerful to just rip someone's soul out of nowhere.
It's
Yeah, I think I
fine.
created a spell for you, a cantrip or something. Like you have to, it's like a soul trapped first, and then when they die, then it happens.
Yeah, and I do like them. I mean, we didn't really do too much with them, but I think it was because it kind of came about at the end of the campaign. But I have some ideas that I'm gonna have to keep secret because I'm playing him again. So
Dun, dun,
Well, you're
dun.
gonna have to run it by me, so
I want my goddamn golems, Jesse.
I love golems. I've always said that.
But
Yeah, good.
there's one more thing. It's a really small thing. It isn't necessarily a homebrew or anything, but I had a character who wanted 3 hands when I DM'd. And I said, yeah, you can get it, but it's going to be a permanent mage hand that grows out of like the center of your back. And I just had him burn. I think levels 1 to 3, it was a first level spell slot, and then 3 to 5, it was a second level spell slot. So he sacrificed a spell slot for a 3rd hand. I did a little bit extra, but I don't remember exactly what the homebrew was for it. But I thought it was kind of cool.
Since Rhiannon isn't here, I think I'd be remiss to say that without homebrew and Jesse's ever-loving fucking patience with Dragomir wouldn't have happened, which is
That is true.
still her favorite character to ever have played. It was a 6-armed barbarian who, because of his strength and the number of arms, Jesse allowed to basically dual wield 2-handed weapons. So, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun together, and I was just looking. My initial email to Jesse about D&D was on July 2nd, 5 years ago. We just passed our 5-year.
Hooray! So it's funny talking about homebrew. I was so against homebrew at first, like very, very, very against, because it was so unbalanced, and it'd be another thing to keep track of, and like I don't know how to work with it, yada yada, and that was my entire attitude during Prince of the Apocalypse, and then I think something happened after that. I just became more comfortable, and I was like, okay, let's start opening the floodgates a little bit, and then it just poured out after that. And I was like, all right, homebrew is the shit. I understand this game. I'm comfortable with this game. I understand the mechanics well enough that I can dabble in this, and like, I'll take any idea you guys give me and try to embrace it because I want you guys to have fun. And that's really the goal. Is if you guys approach me with something, I feel like because you love the game so much that you searched it, you researched it and asked me for it, I'm like, yes, I want you to have this because you are invested in the game. And it makes me feel so happy that you guys are invested in the game. And I think that's like another reason why I really enjoy homebrew now, because it shows me that you guys love the game and are invested as well. So yeah, I was very against it. Now I'm like all for it.
I find that interesting because, Eob's wizarding school was a homebrew school. That
And
you allowed.
that's actually, I think, why I was so against it at first, because I kept on asking myself, did I balance him right? Is he too overpowered? Is he like, I just kept second guessing myself with Diav, and yeah, so like, and that's what made me read every other book so that I understood how the mechanics work and such.
Brad, do you want to ask the next question?
Yes. What have been your guys' favorite moments as a DM, or in Sam's case, as a player?
Let's go Sam first.
Yeah, Sam. Can we get something from Spider's time? What was your
I was
favorite
actually
Spider?
just gonna say, it was kind of like it's really embarrassing retrospectively, but I think one of my favoriteest like my most favorite moments was actually when I wasn't even playing, because I worked at a resort at the time that had some very questionable Wi-Fi. And I think this was one of the times, but we were playing Curse of Strahd, and we finally found Strahd's body in his coffin, and you guys had me roll had me roll to stab him. I rolled a natural 20 if I remember correctly, and you had me decapitate him instead, and I wasn't even there for it. And just hearing you guys like talk about it in the group chat was just like, I was a little sad that I missed it, but I like, obviously I couldn't have done anything anyway, but it was just hilarious hearing you guys talk about it in the group chat afterwards, like, oh my god, I can't believe what Spider did. And it's like, well, you better tell me, because I don't know what Spider did, because at that point I don't think we were streaming at that point, and it's just like, what did I do? Because I was also the first player to, I think, to do death saves from like when we were level 1, and we were fighting a bunch of wolves, and I may or may not
Oh,
have
geez.
tooted my horn, like I might not have thought about it as well as I did then, and may or may not have almost got myself killed the first session we played as these characters. But I do think that me decapitating Strahd when I wasn't even playing my character is still one of my, like, unironically, one of my favorite
And you
things.
had the Sun Sword too.
Yeah, that was the thing, is I think because I had the sun sword and I was gonna stab him with it, and I rolled, someone must have been playing me, rolled a natural 20, and instead of stabbing, I just decapitated him.
And on the note of Curse of Strahd, and I will get back to the question here in a second, but um, just sort of like those dalliances you can take as a DM. Like, spoiler for Curse of Strahd. At the very end of the book, it's like, and they killed Strahd, and the realm is safe for now because Strahd is completely immortal and will always return, and yada yada yada. And I like that Jesse didn't like try to bring that back at some point. Like, it's kind of like this artistic thing that, like, oh, you can always rerun this with people. People will always want to play it, but it made it so that, like, later in the game, when we were talking about like what our characters would do, like, Byron went back and took over the monastery where the crazy fucking angel was living, and Katarina went and found the patch of druid land and turned it into a druid grove and like reunited people. Like, when you get players invested in an area, it was the same kind of thing with our current campaign. It was like, when you get them invested, they'll want to return and do things in that area. If you just tell them that you're moving on to the next thing, the next adventure, the next whatever, then they kind of feel disconnected from whatever happened in that.
Yeah, I remember reading that and I was like, well, that's stupid. Like, like, everything they just did is completely worthless. Like, is that what you're trying to tell your
Yeah.
players? So I just ignored it.
Oh my goodness. Well,
So,
Jesse, how about you?
oh, I
Aha,
was
I
gonna
got it
nominate
first,
you.
loser.
My favorite moments as a DM are when you guys have your moment. I know that's cliche, but whenever, and I have another one, so don't worry. But whenever you guys have your aha moment, or you're like, fuck yeah, like whenever you guys feel that, I feel that tenfold. I love that shit. And then on the flip side is whenever I get a good gotcha on you guys, and it can't be artificial, it has to be a real gotcha. Um, I feel like there were some moments where you guys saw it coming, and I tried to get a gotcha, but I couldn't. Like it wasn't like satisfying. But when you guys have that click of, oh, that's what this is, that is so much fun. With like, I have a lot of fun when I get that. But if it's like a slow, like I think it's leading here, it's kind of like, okay, here's actually what it is, and you're pretty close. But whenever it's like it clicks quickly, that's satisfying. Not to say like you guys figure things out very well, so I'm not worried about that. Like it's fine if it doesn't happen often, but I do like it when those things do occur. And Jeremy.
Oh, favorite moment as a DM. Well, the gotcha moments are great. Back in that homebrew game I was talking about, when basically one of my characters was like an elven princess of the Winter Kingdoms in the Feywild, and we kept going back home and seeing her mom, but she could never see her dad because he was always too sick, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. And they weren't sure if it was contagious, so she wasn't even allowed to see him in his room, and yada yada yada. That went on for months and months and months of actual play time. And eventually went back one, and somebody passed an insight check because they had gotten to that point where some of them were just like passive insight of 21, and realized something was off, and broke into the king's bedroom where he was like laying sleeping sick, and someone cast a spell magic, and the entire illusion faded. The room was hectically just like overgrown with cobwebs. The body of the king was dead and desiccated, and it turned out that the mother wasn't the mother at all, but a pretender from the Spider Queen who had been fucking with them the entire time and had already killed their father. And it was one of those moments where everybody was like, what the fuck just happened? What have we been doing these last couple of months? And unbeknownst to me, unbeknownst to me, but like it just so happened that it timed well that player's dad had just recently passed when that reveal had happened. So it hit her really hard, and I wasn't even aware of that until after the session. And that I mean, she said, no, it's fine, like it's okay. I just wasn't expecting that. I was like, honestly, I wasn't expecting that either, but that was a very memorable moment. And then Jesse, I don't remember if you ever went back and listened to my old D&D podcast, Hail the Void, or not.
Yeah, I did. Not all of it, but I definitely watched some of it or listened to some of it.
So we started off with the adventure of the Sunless Citadel. It's out of the Yawning Portal. It's a great starter adventure for any DMs. Sam, if you are looking for a starter adventure, check out the Yawning Portal, Sunless Citadel. It's great. But the spoilers for Sunless Citadel, the very big bad guy at the end is like this druid who's supposed to have gone mad or whatever. I always like making villains that you can kind of feel sorry for, because it humanizes them and makes it a more of a ethical or moral issue when you decide if you need to kill them or not. And as they struck the killing blow, he basically said to the cleric, I guess tell her she's won. And they get back to town. There's this big party going on, and the sorceress who had sent them off to kill this druid and return an artifact to her was there. She was all happy and smiling, and they gave her the artifact. And it was just one of those moments where she's like, finally. And and then again the illusion drops, and the musicians are like tied up and been playing their instruments down to the bones of their fingers, and like are just like staring crazily, like screaming in silent pain. And a bunch of villagers dead around their feet that they couldn't see before. And then turns out you were working for the BBG all the whole time. And I just love a good twist. That's what my favorite moments as a DM is being able to pull off those twists without people seeing it ahead of time.
Yep. Can totally concur.
quick question. Are these all with the same group, or are they with different groups?
No, the Hail the Void twist was with on my podcast. It was my brother, my mom, my wife, and then our late friend before he passed. And then the second group was my best friend from that since middle school who had never played before. We started this full homebrew campaign. His wife, his little brother, and then myself DMing, Rhiannon was playing, and my little brother played with us for a while. So yeah, two different groups. Again, you have to lull people, especially if they know that you're the kind of person who puts those twists in there. You have to lull them away from the fact that the twist is coming, and that's kind of like the really hard balance. If you want to be that kind of DM that throws twists like that at people, you have to lull them into a false sense of security, make them forget that, oh, you're the kind of fucker that likes to put twists in that break my heart or that make me, shit my pants at a moment's notice.
So, Brad, what are your favorite moments as a DM, or experiencing as a player?
I have two. One is a DM, and one is a player. DM one, I hate going back to this one. Just for some reason, this one sticks with me. Is the player with the rope capturing the goblins, because when it happened, it was he just asked for a rope. And I was like, okay, whatever. Probably just didn't mark it down in his character sheet and wants to have it for whatever. And when we're clearing out the sewer of goblins, it's like, hey, guys, don't kill him, just knock him out. I'm going to tie him up. And I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. Maybe he wants to like bring him back and be like, hey, we actually got rid of him, instead of just saying, oh yeah, we killed him. We didn't just walk off, wait for 6 hours to come back, kind of thing. And right as he finished, they were like, okay, so what are we going to do with him? He's like, all right, guys, we're going to bring him back to the village that we were starting at, and we're going to take over the village, and we're going to use the goblins as laborers. And I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. And it was one of those moments where I was just like, okay, everything I had written up to this point is going out the window, because they're not going to be interested in that anymore. I have no idea what they're going to be doing. So we're going to be playing this by ear. And I ran the rest of that campaign completely by the seat of my pants, because they ignored every story hook possible and did their own thing, which is great, because they definitely had their own agency and they created their own story, kind of. But it was more memorable as in a moment of like, it doesn't really matter what I put the plan into, they're just gonna kind of do their own thing. As it was like the start of my second campaign, so it was kind of a learning moment, I guess. And the most memorable scene as a player is starting a brand new character after one of your character dies, and then he dies, and him getting rolled into a grave. I know we already talked about him, but we already talked about the most memorable things for me. It's just kind of like, why?
Well, you know what, Jesse? I mean, we'll understand if you want to pick one of your non-favorite groups to talk about your favorite DM moment. But I mean, we are from your favorite group.
So it still applies. Whenever a player is really interested in the game, that's my favorite moment. It's when you guys come to me saying, hey, I made this homebrew, can you check it out and like work together? Like, I love that stuff. I definitely have players that they're just in it for the social aspect of D&D, which is fine. Like, we all understand that, we all get it. And I have some players who are like so invested in it that they message me all the fucking time, and I love it. And like, every player's different, and I know that everyone has different lives and different hobbies and stuff. And but I love the player who is constantly messaging me, being like, "Hey, let's talk about this aspect of my player." Like, yes, I want that.
Let me put my children to bed for.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so now I have a question for Jeremy. How do you get a player to do their homework in terms of in terms of maybe engaging a player that like they love it. They love it. They love having fun. They love showing up. They show up on time. But outside of the game, it's meh. Like they don't really talk about it. It's kind of like it's kind of what they do on their Thursday night or Monday night or whatever it is, you know, and then they just kind of forget about it.
I mean, depends on the person, because some people there's only so much you. I've got a player in one of my games. He loves playing with us. He loves like the story as it goes on, but is also on his phone 24/7 and asks what's happening every 5 minutes. Attention, but insists that he's paying attention. So sometimes with that, you confront it, once or twice. If nothing's gonna happen, you either make the choice, this person can't be part of our group, or I'm just gonna let it ride and let it happen. And depending on who those players are, sometimes you only have one of those. Other than that, it's mostly just making myself available. Be like, hey, look, if you want to jump on Discord for 30 minutes on Friday night after you put your kids to bed or whatever, like, we can sit down and like work through the ins and outs of this kind of character, or you can ask me the questions that you want, or I can give you advice on. I think I did that with Sam once. I was like, hey, if you want advice on like what spells to prepare for your character, because be stuck using the same spells over and over, that's fine. Yeah, I will make myself available, because it's if I can help you streamline your character, it's not only going to be better for you, it's going to be better for the entire table. I'd say for me, it's just being able to make myself available when people need
it. Okay. Sam, now, for me at least, whenever you make a new character, you write on average around 43 pages for the character backstory.
It's a low average.
It's a low average.
Come on,
it really
man.
is.
You're skimping me out a few pages.
So you go hard on the backstory, and you are known for that. Which is amazing. I love it. I love every second of it. Now let's see. I don't know where I was going with this. Now, do you ever revisit your backstory and like think of questions at the beginning of each session, like how would I interact with this, knowing my backstory related to my backstory? Like, how do you revisit your long backstory to anchor yourself against with your backstory?
A wild Ree has appeared.
Hi guys.
Oh my goodness.
Ree! Sorry, I got distracted.
Sorry.
How are you doing, Ree? Sorry.
Oh, I am good. I literally just walked in the door. But yes, everything's good. Life is continuing to life. So
Now, Ree, you choose the more blue paint or the more gray paint?
More gray paint. It's neutral, which means it's gonna lend itself to any decor you guys ever want to put in there. And the blue paint is more on the cool side, which is gonna limit the kinds of things that you can do in there.
So is that the entryway or like the back room of your place, or like where are you putting this paint?
Yeah, ha. When Jerry said that, it took me a second. I was like, bro, he thinks he's talking about our spot.
Well, while you get settled, Sam, back to you. So what do you think is like, how do you anchor yourself with your backstory? How do you anchor yourself?
So I typically with like my character process kind of starts with an idea more than anything, like, oh, what if I had a character who was possessed by, a benevolent deity who may not be so benevolent after seeing the world going through chaos? Or what would happen if a college, like a magical college student, actually went out into the real world and realized that, trying to be cool, but then realizing college just kind of royally screwed over the idea of what real life is like. And I think I throw a lot of detail into backstories for ease of use by the DM if they want to include some of the backstory, but typically I'll have the backstory and then I'll have what I want to start my character as, because I know it's not going to stay the same. And I quickly realized that with Cinna, especially. I was hoping to have a bit more of a cooler, like maybe a bit more confident in herself kind of character to start out with. And that very quickly devolved into I am rather insecure about this situation. This is nothing like what I studied in college. Why is everything so awful? Kind of thing. And I think I evolve a lot based on like how my character has been responding via my natural response to things. And just kind of rolling with it, using some of the background. I think Cinna is probably the least detailed character I've made a background for.
You're right. She was like 102 pages.
Oh god, it was cliff notes at best. But like, I don't know, I just like to give a lot of potential for like the DM to come back around to potentially make use of details that they want to, because it's like, yes, my character is its own person, but I also like when the DM wants to use details from my backstory. They don't have to, but it's fun when, you know, like the last campaign, or I guess it wasn't the last campaign, it was actually the first campaign with Seraphang, and the group meeting her mom. It was just like, oh god, I wasn't prepared for this. I kind of had an inkling it was going to happen, but I wasn't prepared for this. Shit. And just like having to mentally like, oh god, we're not like on terrible, you know, we're not on terrible territory right now, but I'm just, the circus is not my life. And trying to prepare for last minute details like that is just, it's fun, but it's also kind of like, oh my god, I'm not ready for this. I'm not emotionally ready for this. Oh dear.
All right. And then Brad, how do you get your player to do their homework? How do you encourage them to engage?
I didn't.
Okay.
Didn't have to.
They were just
I haven't
fully
run a whole lot
engaged.
of campaigns. Yeah, they took it and ran, which is, I guess, all I could ever have asked for.
Oh, look
But-
at me. I'm Brad. I'm
I
a
mean,
good DM.
It was like it's like 6-7 sessions. I didn't have to do much, which is nice. But I assume if it had gone on longer, I probably just would have had to neg them a little bit. I mean, the people I ran with are pretty studious anyway. As in, like, they read the player's handbook front to back like 3 times. I don't understand how I managed to get those people.
That's code for fucking nerds.
Yeah,
You only
yeah.
read it 3 times? Come on.
As newbies, yeah, it's pretty good.
That is actually really good. Yeah, there are definitely players that they have never read the player's handbook that I have.
Arguably, I haven't.
I mean, I've read parts
That's not
of
a
it.
joke.
I've read
Yeah.
parts.
I've
I
read the
think it
parts that are
also helps.
relevant.
Well, and I think it also helps when your first encounter with D&D, you have like a very patient DM who's willing to sit and walk you through and explain like, oh, this is the reason why we do this, and this is why you have to roll so many versions of like so many D6s and stuff. Because
Who
I
was your
feel like
first DM?
you.
Oh, really?
Yes, I remember sitting there being like, I don't know what I'm doing. And you and Aaron and like everyone that was there was just so patient with me. And I think that really helped like make me feel like, oh my god, I'm an idiot, but these people are so kind and are actually like sitting and waiting for me to understand these things.
God, I would love to play a game.
Oh God, no,
It
you
was
wouldn't.
fun.
Rhiannon and I will seduce your
Aaron, so side note, I'm sorry. So Aaron and we just played. So Aaron has a good friend named AJ who's getting married, and AJ wanted for his
congrats.
bachelor party to do a one shot, and I was like, hey AJ, I'll do a 3-shot for you and your like friends who are going to be in the wedding party. So Aaron was also a part of the wedding party, and so I think it total was like 8 or 9 people. Not all of them showed up every single session. So like one session we had 5, another session we had 6, and the last session we had 8, which was chaos. But my wife is very much I roll to intimidate. I roll to intimidate. I want him to do my bidding. I roll to intimidate. I roll to intimidate. Like, okay, let's just calm down there.
Well, as a wife of a DM, I know that as a wife, I take it as a challenge to get Jeremy to make rulings in my favor that he probably wouldn't do for anybody else. Because,
How does that work out?
listen, not great. You would think I'm sleeping with the DM that I would get some benefit towards
Absolutely
that.
not. Absolutely
no.
not.
Well, Ree, when you were a DM, Ree, first introduce how long have you been playing TTRPGs? Were you ever a DM? How many games have you DM'd for? What sort of systems have you played before? And so on and so forth.
Okay,
Give us your
I
bio.
have been playing for 7 years. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been 8. It took a year to convince you to come.
Yeah, because I was like, you and your nerd friends can do your nerd shit and leave me out of it. And here we are. Yeah, so 7 years I've been playing. I have been DMing for 4 years, something like that. Yeah, I feel confident in that, like at least 3.5. I currently DM 2 games, and I have DM'd 2 other that are now finished. Yes.
Bravo.
So, yeah. And mostly D&D 5e is our main thing, but we started on
World of Darkness.
World of Darkness, thank you. And then we played a very long like Heroes and Villains campaign, and then we got into D&D 5e together. So yeah, that's it. I mean, I don't think I've played any other tabletop RPGs.
Star Wars, Stargate.
Oh, Star Wars, duh, and Stargate. I don't know. I'm currently playing those. I don't know why those are cut. Yeah, so Star Wars. Is it Force Awakens?
No, it's
No.
Force and Destiny.
Force and Destiny. That's right. Yep, and Stargate, which we haven't played in a little bit, but technically we have one currently going. We just got sidetracked by Star Wars.
Like you do.
Like you do.
I believe the question we're on is, how do you get your players to do their homework?
I am a firm believer in homebrew and the rule of cool. So I encourage my players to research things for their characters that aren't standard player handbook stuff. And that really entices them because
Giving them agency.
yeah, I'd like to give my players agency. Obviously, general rule, they always have to run it by me before they add it to their players list, because I have one player in particular who likes to go on D&D wiki and send me, feats that are clearly like legendary feats meant for like a gift from a god, and he thinks he could just take that up. And I'm like, what the fuck is this, my friend? So that it's definitely work to make sure that you have a balance between allowing your players to find interesting new things for their characters while also making sure that they don't become ridiculously overpowered.
So
So that's
do you like that whenever they bring you like something super overpowered because it means that they've been thinking about their character, but then you got to reel them back in and be like, okay,
yeah,
let's adjust this.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because like I'm a full believer in that, especially when you played like so many games of D&D, base PHB stuff can get boring really fast. Or like you've like I've run through all of these races. I don't want to play anything in here. And I think the beauty about 5e and especially is because it has gained so much popularity that there is so much uh homebrew stuff on the internet for people to anybody can look up.
Yeah, third party
And
content.
yeah, third party content is massive. And so I'm a big supporter of it. I think if you can show me something that you think will fit your character, you can tell me why you think it'll fit your character, and how you're planning on utilizing it or what have you. I am 100% always willing to listen. Obviously, sometimes I have to bring my players back down to earth, but I think that is also just the part of being a DM is, I feel like players are always kind of testing how far they can get away with stuff, right? Like how much can I push this before my DM's like, what the hell are you trying to do? You can't you're not a god. Stop it.
Tiny, powerful god.
Morgan, if you're listening, that's for you. Love you though.
So yeah, I think that's it's one of those things, and I think uh, that goes into having to kind of uh, control your players from simply min maxing their characters without any aspect of it being role play driven. I think it's important to not do that. Like
I
you're.
like to call that the Bethesda effect, where modding
Mm,
or third-party stuff only makes the game better, uh, as long
yeah,
as it's done in moderation.
yeah. I mean, yeah, if every time you're opening up your character sheet, your computer shuts off or crashes, like every time you open Skyrim, it crashes. You got too many mods, my guy. Like, chill out.
This sounds like a personal attack right now.
We know what you do with your computer, Brad.
In that same vein, actually, just today, Jesse and I were communicating on Discord about our epic level campaign, and we were talking about like magic items for a level 20 wizard, and I was like, well, there's this really cool staff, but I've never really understood why all staff of power have the same fucking spells. It's like not every wizard's the same. So Jesse was like, well, shoot me a new staff with what spells you would have in it, as long as they're comparable to the original ones. So I spent an hour today divining my own staff for my own character.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing is that, uh my players hate when I say this, but the first rule in the DMG is I make the rules. So as long as you ask me, I am willing to bend those rules for you if it makes sense and I think it's cool. But yeah, so that's how I keep my players interested. Maybe they would have a different feeling on that, but that's what I would say is best.
Well, I have another question for you guys that kind of goes off of that a little bit. So, what are some moments where you say, like, your players make you say, oh my god, that was such a great idea, I can't believe I didn't think of that, or oh my god, I just got a great idea because of something your characters have done that later on you would enact and create like some kind of either really really fun, really chaotic, or like, yeah, no, this is gonna be mean, but it's gonna be funny.
Oh my
Like,
god. I'm gonna try and make this quick because I've been taking up a lot of the spotlight. I have two that come to mind. One from Star Wars, and one from our home campaign with our friend. I was running a module called the Pristine City. I think it's Dastow is the publisher for that. It is a really fun mid-level module about this dwarven city that was like stopped halfway through construction. But they, cut a lot of corners, and instead of like using really good materials for the walls, they were using kind of shitty materials, but like enforcing it by enslaving demons to like into the walls. And part of that was like the more destruction that happens around the city, the more demons are being released into the city. But if you have a really uninsightful group of players that don't catch on to that, you get three characters who can find a catapult or a trebuchet inside a museum and start launching it off at the walls of the city, releasing an entire demon army. That was just great. Just like, okay, yeah, you can absolutely fire this thing off, and just sitting there
Chris and John, you little shitheads.
ticking away at it. The other was fairly recent, actually. It was in our Star Wars campaign, and it was an unintentional player death because they were
Oh,
fighting.
no.
Yeah, they were fighting a Dark Force user. Rhiannon's bounty hunter had been basically fighting the ranged people, jumping from cart to cart. They were like, it was like a floating city on the water, but it had been hit by space lasers, so it was floating and everything was falling. And Rhiannon made their way over to a ship that had been being repaired, like dry docked, but that was like halfway underwater. Made her way onto the like ship's blasters and wanted to use mechanics to repurpose them to fire at the bad guy. Didn't take into account the fact that the bad guy was in melee with another player, and that these weapons aren't meant to hit small targets. They're meant to hit ships at miles of range. And I rolled for it and had the player roll for it, and just even with the success, it was just way too much damage, and both him and the bad guy were destroyed.
God giveth, God taketh.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a little bit of a boon. The guy kind of like, I wanted to re-roll a new guy anyway, but it was one of those moments where I was like, oh, that was a really good idea to jump on that laser. Here's what's gonna happen.
But a bad execution.
In terms of things that blow me away, or unexpected things, it's always Brad. It always seems to just be like the crazy shit that Brad will do, especially with Brip Rap. It was always with Brip Rap or Muad'Dib, or like how Brip Rap died and then he made a new character, then that character died, and I'm just like, oh my god. Or just the unexpected thing when you went to go to the Nine Hells, you drove that the ship to the Nine Hells, and then Jeremy made a wish to change his alignment. I'm just like, oh my god, what the fuck do I do now? And it's usually high level play that those moments really happen, because you guys can do unbelievable things at the switch of, like the flip of a hat. And it's usually Brad though. And Jeremy. Brad.
I am creative.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the question? I got sidetracked.
Like just what was like a very surprising moment, whether successful or not, if your players have ever done something where you're like, oh my god, that was a great idea, like I can't believe I didn't think of that, or something where you go, okay, that might have consequences later, or just something that kind of surprised
Slave Goblin Revolt.
No, this one's from the Curse of Strahd. Oh god. They boarded up the burgomaster's manor in the dead of night and lit it on fire
Yep,
Oh, I remember this.
with
I remember that.
all of them inside. No. The players, the minute they got there, they heard about it, they walked in and they said, "We're going to burn this shit down." And I said, "Okay."
Wait, didn't you guys do that?
I was gonna
Ours
say
was
we were
accidental.
very
Oh, okay. Yours was accidental.
We
were
didn't
very
mean to set that shit on fire.
But
we
there
still
was a
did.
lot of flammable stuff in there.
There
So
was.
Yeah.
Always dust your trophy rooms, people.
No, they boarded up all the doors, all the windows. They took out people that noticed, like just random townsfolk. I was just like, I don't know how to do this. Like they rolled well for some fucking reason. They managed to only kill like 10-ish townspeople that noticed. But like, at that point Strahd probably would have shown up, but I don't know what he would say to that. I don't know how to do anything. And they got me. They beat me. They beat the DM.
Now,
that's
they
how
won.
Strahd would have just been like, "Wait, so are you guys good guys, or like, are you trying to free the people of Barovia, or do you guys like want a job?"
question for
Yeah,
you, Brad. Were these people you're playing with, were they newbies or veterans?
Newbies.
See, yeah, I feel like that's like a pattern that really, like, usually newbies will play and you'll start off as murder hobos. But if you get to any point like past level 10 in a campaign and you're still invested, I feel like that's where you start to really get into like okay, well, let's invest in the story, let's invest in the role play and the person that I'm.
Suspension of
better.
disbelief a little bit.
They got better. I do have to say, they came up with a great plan. It was a fantastic plan, and it worked. I mean, they got rid of the burgomaster, so I guess it worked. It's just one of those moments where like, damn, that was a really good plan, and it worked out. But god damn it, why'd you have to make that plan?
Ugh, murder.
Now,
For me,
Bree, yeah.
it's always like, I'm always the most surprised when players try to loophole through things that aren't exactly correct, right? Like using spells in interesting ways that they're not exactly meant for, but it kind of makes sense.
It's the hear me out moment, right?
Yeah, okay, listen. What if I do this? And I'm always here for those moments. They always have to roll for it to see if it works in the way that they intended, but I do enjoy that. My players have mostly surprised me in their like role play choices, which I am always pleasantly surprised by. Like when they choose to open up to each other, or they choose an action together. Like I'll say, I run Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and my brother-in-law, Jeremy's younger brother Declan, he plays with us in that, and he plays a lizard folk. And in the Dungeon of the Mad Mage, obviously it's in the Underdark, so there's lots of troglodytes that were being used as slaves by the Drow. And instead of letting his party kill them, because, he's like, these are also, my kind of people, they created a rebellion with the troglodytes and broke them free from the Drow instead of just killing them all.
He Brited it.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said he Brited it. It's a community record.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just kind of surprising. I was like, yeah, let's fucking get into it, my guy. Like, you want to save some fucking lizard folk adjacent people? We could do that.
Revolution.
So that's always like, interesting and surprising. Jeremy's character in that has also surprised me in kind of more of a funny way, where he is really committing to the bit of them being a business owner. And so
Oh shit!
every person that they meet, he gives out flyers and coupons from their business, which they like run a tavern. So every person he meets, he's like, come up just to the Cracked Egg and have a drink on us. Come up to the Cracked Egg and have a drink on us. And I'm just like, I appreciate the commitment, man. I appreciate the commitment. It's something very similar that he does in our campaign with the fucking Olympics.
Something in me just wants to reunite the underground and upper world.
Yeah, clearly. So yeah, those I always find the most fascinating, and I find people who are not longtime players generally come up with more, I think, fascinating things to do, specifically with spells. And I remember feeling that way when Jeremy's mom played with us, and she would read these spells and would come up with completely different purposes for them, but they still felt like they could fit in the parameter of the spell. And I just always remember finding that absolutely fascinating, just the way, different people, especially when it's something new to them, would interpret something.
Can I jump off that point real quick?
Of course.
Okay, tell story time. So Inhale the Void in the podcast that my mom played in. It was in between two arcs. Our friend had just passed away, so I'm like scrambling to do all these changes and change the party, but also like write a way out for his character that suits him and honors him. And so I sort of just pieced together this piecemeal stop at a village along the way where every couple of nights they're sacrificing one of their villagers to this dark creature that comes in the night, and if they don't, then one of them gets their mind controlled and basically walks off into the mist. It turned out it was like this Duragar that had, it's another Tome of Beast creature. It's like it's basically a baby Duragar that is like psychically extremely strong, but it's just a baby, so they put it in a cage and they carry it around like on a pole arm, and it's an insane psychic baby, and it just pushes its mind out into another creature and takes over its body. And they ended up killing the creature that was using the baby, and they had this little chaotic evil baby that was insane. My mom had gotten wishes from the deck of many things, and she used one of her wishes to make the baby normal. And I was just like, that is the most selfless way that I've ever seen somebody use a wish. And then gave it to one of the villagers whose child had been chosen for sacrifice before. So
yeah, this mom, I remember, was just like distraught, and she was like absolutely kind of crazy because her baby was killed by this creature. And then yeah, Sita, Twillanen in the game, just picked up this baby, changed it completely, and then handed it to this mother, and she immediately just acted like it was her baby that she had lost. And it was beautiful and very heartwarming to see. Moms, man.
Moms.
Yeah, again, new player, most people generally think of one, selfish things to do with wishes, or two, use wishes to, because they have to save their friend. Their friend just, got fucking vaporized, and they're like, okay, well, I guess I'll use this wish I've been holding on to for that.
So
But
that kind of, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just no, you're good.
I was gonna say that kind of dovetails into like, how do you keep your players invested in each other's successes and role play between one another? Any like insight into how to tell each other that they are working together as a team, how to like work together as a team? How do you encourage that as a DM?
I would say, for me personally, I find that roleplay comes with time and practice. Oh, oh my goodness. I know that I'm not, especially when I first started playing, I could have never imagined, putting on a voice and like talking like I'm not just me sitting there with my friends eating chips. Like, this is kind of fucking weird. I think role play in general takes time and practice. It's hard. Like when I play with like Jeremy and his brother, they're both theater kids at heart. They're both really good at uh, improv, and that's me. I feel like a lot of it is just time and practice, and also making sure that you give your players time and space to role play. I think a lot of times you get so caught up in your own story. I know this for myself, that you forget that at the end of the day, they are probably spending at least 2 hours sitting around a campfire. So why are we blasting through that time and not giving them the option to speak to one another? Because I feel like that's the best way for people to get attached to one another, is by learning about each other.
I think as a DM too, it's also incumbent on you to make sure everybody has a spotlight every once in a while.
Yeah.
Because you do kind of get lost in your own shit in your own story, and it's good to be reminded every once in a while, like, oh, this other person had all these desires and checklists that they wanted to check off, and that's kind of how I felt with Elora. Like, we finished up the stuff down, the first like set of stuff below, and went back up, and I was like, hey, y'all don't have to come with me, but I'm going back down because I need to find my parents. And you're all were like, yeah, we don't really have anything else going on.
We saved the city. It's fine. Let's go and do this.
Now, Sam, how do you feel? Maybe just as a player, like how do you keep invested in other people's successes and your other players' successes?
Well, if they decide to, romance me as their character, that's one way
That's
to
never
get
happened in
invested.
any of our campaigns.
Never. I don't know. I feel like if you kind of strategize before the campaign even starts, and I know strategizing sounds like, oh my god, we're going to, make these these amazing crazy characters, and it's like, or you could just make these characters that somehow have a relation, like just a basic building block relationship to each other. Like Kaylor, Kertz, and Cinna are all siblings, but they are completely different people, and they have completely different backgrounds, desires. Like they have such different stories, but they're siblings. So having that basic relationship, I think, kind of helps build, like how Ree was saying, you establish relationships through role play. And I think that's really true, because you could say, oh, this so and so's character and my character have been, work buddies for the past 10 years. And then if you never actually talk to each other, it's like, well, how close of work buddies were you actually really, if you're, sitting across the fire from each other at the end of the day, just staring at each other? Like,
Not only that, but continuously going through trauma together. Like,
oh,
that's,
for sure.
I think, something that gets overlooked. Like,
Trauma bond.
yeah, you're hiding. You as a person are hiding behind. Honestly, I felt like that made it, that brought Spider and Dragomir a lot into the story with her, because they both cared so much for her and felt for her when she was going through the motions of that. So
Oh, for sure. And
Or getting thrown off a bridge by Strahd, and Drago being like, sorry you've never been loved, bro, but maybe don't kill my fucking girlfriend.
But yeah, I think finding those complexities in relationships are just, it's like one of the weirdest, most magical things that you can like, you don't realize it until afterwards, I think sometimes, where you're like, oh my god, I never thought I cared so much about this character, and I really do care so much about them. And like you said, Katarina, I think, really like organically brought more to Drago and Spider's stories than I was expecting. Like, I just knew Katarina as Drago's adopted sister. Like, I never really thought, oh my god, I'm going to, like, I would die for her. No questions asked. Like, she is my sister as much as Drago's. And I think having those moments is like one of the coolest things about D&D, that you just get so invested in these non-existent things, or these non-existent characters, that you kind of realize, no, these characters, like, they're real to me.
Yeah, and I also feel that like a lot of times, I think sometimes it's easier for people to relate to like video games that they really love, or like fictional characters from a book series that they really love. If that character dies or goes through trauma, you feel that and you experience that, and it can be very upsetting to your actual person.
Oh god.
Then on the other end, you've got Kertz,
Yeah.
who
Wait,
Elora at this point is, anytime he like walks naked towards a dragon, is just feeling like a toddler walking towards a light socket with a fork. It's just like, everybody just wait a minute, he'll learn his lesson one of these times.
Yeah, I feel like at this point we're just like, we used to try and stop him, but now we're just like, no, wait, I want to see where this is going.
Something's going to happen out of this. I don't know if it's going to be good or bad, but something's going to happen.
Yeah, he's either
It's a
going to be
learning
fucked or
experience.
eaten by this dragon, and either one, he's going to figure it out.
It's a lifestyle choice.
Spoiler alert: he's never going to figure it out.
Nope.
No.
Never.
His
Yeah,
character
he-
motivation is he big dumb.
Yeah,
That's why the
he's-
acting manager general likes him so much. He's a dumb soldier.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely, to me anyway, it seems like,
He's a himbo.
yeah,
He's a himbo.
100%. He is similar to Dragoneer in that sense. That like,
I mean, they both
dumb-
helicoptered at their captors, so.
That is true, but in Dragomir's defense, his dick's always out, so he doesn't really have to take off anything to get naked. He's in a loincloth, which is why Spider loves him.
Absolutely.
Did anybody else want to
It's a
answer this
reminder.
question? I do have a couple of our Discord questions I wanted to get to before we ended.
I wanted to just state really quickly. So I have a player who had a character who went through all of Rise of the Drow, all the way up to the Fungi Forest, where they faced the Sun Lotus, and you guys remember that epic
Oh,
fight
yeah.
and stuff.
Mhm.
At the very, like, one of the last rounds of them fighting that little thing, her character gets obliterated, just completely, no death fail. Like, I think she just like completely died. And it was like an emotional, perfect scene. And after it happened, I messaged her on Discord, and I was like, hey, just so you know, like, the other characters, they have diamonds. Like, it's the end of the session, yeah, but like, they can revive you by next session. She's like, no, it feels perfect for how she would have wanted to go. And to be that committed to the character, she's like, I don't want to stop playing her. She's a fun character, but the story wraps up perfectly, and I don't think it would have. It was so satisfying of an ending, and to hear that, like, a player so invested and so
That
like,
they're willing to let go.
yeah, and I just, God,
Like,
I absolutely
smoke
love
flat
her as a
that
character. She is amazing. And so yes, and it was just a really good end, and there was a funeral and everything, and that was
Then her
just a
twin
really
sister
cool
showed up.
moment. Yeah, exactly. Same deity, same everything. Anyway, Jeremy, you were saying about the other Discord
Yes.
questions?
So just a couple I wanted to get to since we did get some questions in from our Discord. Laughing Lich Corporation on Discord. I believe there'll be a link in the YouTube video. Come join us, give us information. We'll probably do another one of these because we actually had a lot of questions we haven't gotten to. So,
I have a quick comment.
yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't able to splice it in. But on like getting invested in the characters, I remember with Maudib, whenever he finally got contacted by his patron, and his task was to kill Spider, I was like, nope, not happening. That's in character and out of character. I'm like, I'm not doing that. You can fuck off, Jesse. Asking me to do something like that.
Also, you'd have to go through Drago, so like good
I was gonna
fucking
say,
luck.
Yeah, I knew
Yeah.
I knew that was gonna happen, so I was like, yeah, you're probably gonna die.
Yeah. But that it was kind of like a visceral gut reaction. I was like, no, it's not happening. I'm not doing that. Which is, weird. It's like it's a fictional character, and I was just like, no. I mean, I've killed my fair share of relatively important NPCs without a second thought, but like another PC is just kind of an extra
Layer of fucked up.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
complexity of character we're just not about.
Yeah, I could push Boblin the Goblin off a bridge, but can't
Not
do
Goblin
it.
the Goblin.
Nah, he's not a real person. He can go.
Ow. Wow.
But-
Race.
God.
But I mean, like if it was asked earlier in the campaign, like maybe by level 5, yeah, maybe. But like at the end of a campaign, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Plus, I think also at that time, not that this ever contributed to your mindset, but never mind. I'm not even gonna go there.
Do it.
Cool. No. So the question comes from a Discord user r. I think that's Ruthless the Red. For some reason, both him and Jesse's name in Discord are just coming up with the first letter and dots afterward. I think maybe you guys didn't update your Discord names for the big changeover.
I mean, I see everything as normal.
Yeah, I'm seeing everything too.
For some reason, Jesse's is just J ... and there's a T ... It doesn't matter. Anyway, I think this is Ruthless the Red. What stories have you borrowed from in your DMing and or character creation? We know that Sam borrowed a little for a current character. And what are your thoughts on creatively including themes and elements from other sources, i.e. other books or other podcasts or real actual play that you've seen?
I enjoy taking inspiration. I think there's like a fine line between inspiration and doing exactly as something else. What was the first part of that question? I'm sorry.
What stories have you borrowed from in your own campaign?
Ooh. If I borrowed from I don't know actually if I've technically borrowed from any like stories or anything, but I can say that I do find inspiration from like books that I read, like Sherilyn Kenyon's series, as well as like the Dark Hunter series is always good. I enjoy that. Sometimes I'll take like a character that I really like and will create them as an NPC that then my players get to bully and then kill, which is that's always sad. But
Well, you've borrowed from Jesse, right? One of your players has a berry.
oh yeah, that's right. I have borrowed from Jesse. Yeah, my friend Deidre has a 12-year-old necromancer who loves raising the dead and got jailed for it. And so I was like, and once she became powerful enough to raise dead, I let her create a berry, but his name is Eugene, not Barry.
And
Yeah,
it's very
Horrible.
fitting because I kind of stole Sporolina and threw her into
Yep.
the other campaign that I had. So we
Oh,
steal
yeah.
from each other.
I will say I have put Sporlita in my campaign as well because they were in the Underdark underworld for a large amount of time, and so Sporlita's clan circle is actually hiding one of my players' parents to keep them safe. So yeah, I guess I steal from you guys. I steal from each other.
Yeah.
I've stolen Jeremy's salad bar, which is like a salad bar from
A
him.
time traveling magical shop.
Yes. So every time they see him, he's like a different age. So yeah, I guess I steal from you guys basically.
My
In-
not my
You're good.
not my first homebrew, because my first homebrew D&D was our podcast. But my my second homebrew, which was with all of our friends, I stole very heavily from Critical Role because I just did not have the time um to write a lot of the homebrew. I was kind of jumping from adventure to adventure and then sprinkling in homebrew here and there. And it worked perfectly because nobody had watched it. I can't do that anymore because now they're all super nerds like me and have watched every episode of Critical Role there is. But yeah, I definitely. And then I'm writing a new campaign for them right now that's very heavily attributed to Arthurian lore. I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Just everybody has a good time, and as long as you don't try to pass it off as like this is 100% mine.
I would say that I am inspired a lot by Discworld, Terry Pratchett.
I love Discworld.
I have written down so many things that I've yet to implement. I've mostly done modules. I know our very, very, very first sessions were The Mummy, the movie.
Yeah.
Literally like running through that. And I was just like trying things out on Roll20 and meeting you guys, and it was a lot of fun. But I like modules because I don't like doing a lot of work. Since I've done modules, I've learned a lot about game mechanics, and like I've gotten really comfortable with the game, and I feel comfortable homebrewing a campaign. It's just I am, what's it called, analysis paralysis. Like I have so much information and I want to throw it all to the wall, and like I just don't know where to start. So I really need to just sit down and really organize my thoughts. I have great ideas that most of the time whenever I homebrew like a small one shot or something, I mostly wing it, believe it or not. I do write a lot of things down, and I have to like make a map and stuff. But a lot of times, I just bounce things off of you guys, and you guys are really, really good at like making things up on the spot, and I just kind of riff with it. And I feel like my improv has improved significantly because I'm a lazy DM, and I just kind of spring it on. Go ahead, Jerry.
To tie into that, and hopefully this doesn't bring the mood down too much, but our first DM was, I mean, phenomenal. He had like a brain like a computer, and when he passed away, his dad basically gave me all of his roleplay stuff. So we got all of his Darkness books. I got all his like roleplay notebooks and stuff like that, and it took me a month and a half, 2 months to sit down with the notebook that he used for our World of Darkness campaign, which was like a year and a half of just heavy role play. And I remember opening it up and seeing that 97% of it was blank, and just having that moment of like, I don't need to prepare everything. If you trust in yourself and you trust in your players, the rest will sort of flow. You do have to do, I mean, there is a certain amount of like prep you have to do to be prepared for certain things, to have an idea of random things that could happen if they go one way or the other. But man, just trust in your players, especially if you've been playing with them.
And that's what I do with you guys a lot.
Yep. I totally agree with that as well. I will say, by nature, I'm an over preparer, especially when I first started DMing, because I felt so ill-equipped to be a DM to begin with. So it was like one of those things where I felt like I need to plan out everything I think they can possibly want to do in advance. And then realizing that even when you feel incredibly prepared, your players will always
Yes.
not go the way you think they're going.
100%.
They will never go in a
They will
direction
fuck that
you
tree
would have
stump.
thought. They will fuck up your plan so hard. And I've always tried to tell myself that, like, okay, so maybe this isn't what they're doing right now. That doesn't mean that I can't put the entrance to that cave 3 sessions down from now. You know, like I can re-cannibalize it in a different area of our gameplay, and so my preparedness doesn't go to waste, so to say. So, but yeah, your players will always surprise you, sometimes anger you, but it's all in good fun, and they never do it on purpose, is what I'm telling myself anyway.
Brad, where do you draw inspiration?
I just rip everything from Dune.
From Dune?
Oh, yeah.
Mod dude.
First book.
I will
all of
admit,
them, yeah.
Brad, I will admit, it took me until actually recently watching Dune to understand what the hell Mod Dib was from, because I've never seen nor read Dune.
It's so good.
I
It gets super weird.
I was gonna
I
say
can't wait
it
for the
got
next movie.
weird, but it was just the most, like, I heard the name and I'm like, wait, what?
That son of a bitch.
Kinda.
So I did not know this until just now. You based it off of Dune, and I have never seen Dune. So now I
Same.
guess I'm gonna have to.
Oh, at least watch the new.
Read the book. Read the book.
Read the book. My mom's a huge advocate for the book as well, but the first movie, the one that came out a few years ago, that was the remake. My God, I do not have enough good things to say about it.
It's
So
Timothy
fucking
Chalamet Ding Dong.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's so damn good.
No, go
It's
ahead.
so damn good.
Okay, so sort of backpacking on something we were talking about. This question's from Blair, and it's about note taking of what your players do. Do you take notes, detailed or otherwise, during the session, or do you spend time afterwards doing them, or do you just rely on your players' notes? I'd like to ask Rhiannon first, because she is a notorious note taker as a player. And I think we got a bit of an answer in her last answer, but how do you handle your notes for your session?
I date them, and I try to do large bullet points specifically for like recapping, right? Because like sometimes you might not remember, but if you read just like a vague outline, all those memories of what you guys did last session will come back. And so I don't know if I'm necessarily like an incredibly detailed note taker, but I do take a lot of notes. I'll write down like places that we go, everybody that we've met, because I find, especially with Jeremy being like my main DM, if you will, like he DMs me for like most of the campaigns that I play in, that I know that he loves a vague reference. He loves including something that happened 6 months ago in real life, you know? So like I like to be able to have that recall and go back and be like, nah, bitch, I remember who you're talking about now. So yeah, my note taking is really petty. So I petty note take.
And I know that this campaign specifically, both Brad and Cinna, you've both been pretty scrupulous note takers. I was a really big note taker as a player, as Diov, and then sort of a little less so as Katarina, and not at all as Elora, because that, like, she's singular focused. The question being about DMing, Jesse, as a DM with your notes, do you note things down during the session? Do you wait till afterward? Do you sort of take a couple days and then sort of go back and remember what happen during the time, or you just all rely on what's going to happen next?
So at the beginning of this campaign, I tried to be really good about note taking. I have an Excel sheet that I could scroll back on, and it's super, super detailed, up until maybe midway through Rybelka. Then it starts getting a little bit more scarce. Then it's mostly like prepare this, this, and this for next session. Then it's don't forget about X, Y, and Z. Then it's nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's mostly relying on you guys, and mostly like whenever I go to prepare, like if we play on Monday, I might prepare whatever I need to prepare on Thursday or something. And I have a really vivid memory, and I can remember what you guys did, and I was like, okay, what do I need to prepare for the next session because of what happened on Monday? And that's kind of where I was at. I would like to be a better note taker, but I just tend to get lost in it. I'm too busy as a DM during the thing to really take notes. So I just trust in my memory mostly.
I forget the name of it. There's a really nice looking node-based note-taking app for DMs that I've been interested in using especially for the next homebrew session where I'm going to be having to remember a lot of different things. I have to fucking find the name of that and put it in our Discord.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I think the hard part for taking notes, especially because, most of our games are online, is I am a pen and paper galley. I'm a pen and paper gal. I'm a really poor typer. So even as a DM, I have physical DM notebooks that I take notes in for my games that are both online. So, and I will sometimes keep like interesting points in like my Google Docs or whatever, but most of my notes are taken in a spiral ring notebook. So I typing takes much longer for me. Also, I love stationery and pens are cool. So
Agreed.
Now, Sam, what about you and your note taking?
I usually use, so it kind of varies. Sometimes if I just realize that I need, because I'm working off of just a single screen on my laptop, so sometimes depending on if things are mostly role play, I can usually get away with doing like sticky notes or OneNote and get my notes in that way. But if it's like, oh, we're in battle and then we're going to be out of battle for like 5 minutes and then we're going to go straight back into battle, it's pen and paper, because I just need to have as much screen available to me as possible for like all the sheets and seeing the map and stuff like that. But I usually I think I tend to just do Cliff Notes versions. I think it would be really fun to play as a character who is like a giant nerd and does want to write everything down on like everything that happens is going into this tome.
Sounds like you want to be a wizard.
Well, maybe not a wizard per se, but just kind of a character who is like, oh my god, this is so interesting. Let me write this down so I can remember it. And like depending on what your character design is, you can have it be like an insomnia or a memory loss thing, or have it be like, I am brand new to this place. I have no idea what's going on. You guys were the poor suckers that decided to take me in, and now I'm your problem. What do we do? Kind of situations. But yeah, usually like, especially with Cinna right now, it's kind of mostly like Cliff Notes, names, especially if I can remember to write them down, because some of them look like, I'm not gonna lie, and I feel like this sounds a little mean, but they just sound like you're smashing your keyboard. Just a little bit.
It's definitely me.
But
It is so hard to write the damn names down.
I was gonna say, sometimes it's like, why would these letters go together?
See, that's the thing with my players. I've gotten to the point where I don't even give them spellings for things a lot of the times. Like, if you're gonna write something down for you to remember, write it down phonetically if you don't know the spelling of it. That way, when you if it's Nipshiar or something like that, and you write it down, and last time you're like, "Can I speak to Naibabadu?" and you're like, "Who the fuck are you talking about?" Just write it down phonetically. That way, I know who the fuck you're talking.
I will say, and I think this is something that a lot of groups could probably relate to. I have really kind of phoned in my notes for this session because Brad has been really good at
Yeah.
taking them. So I'm like, why am I taking notes when I know our one and only baby Brad will have them for us? You know, so and the fact that especially with Rise of the Drow, Jesse has made a point to put large chunks in our journal tab available for us to go back and read.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's like, okay, Jesse's kind of doing the notes for us, and Brad is really on top of note taking. So I'm just like, I'm going to be a little lazy in this gameplay for that.
So, Brad, tell us your secrets.
I have nice pens that I really want to use, so I use them.
Fair enough.
It sounds like a joke. No, that's literally it. I have like a. It's gonna sound like rich guy problems, but I literally nabbed it from a trash can. I have like a $600 pen that I use to
Picks
take
or didn't
notes.
happen. Picks or didn't happen.
I'll do you one better. I will send you the marking price.
I don't want the bargaining price. I want picks or didn't happen.
Oh, you'll get the pick. It's from the website.
Oh,
But I used to work for a pen company, and when they were moving offices, there was literally a trash can of old
I
pens that they were
remember
gonna get
this.
rid of, and they're like, "Yeah, go nuts." Yeah, and they were also getting rid of a bunch of notebooks.
Oh, I would have
And I
killed for
took
a notebook.
35.
I would have killed for a notebook.
They're very
I,
nice. I'm not
I
giving
am.
them up. I'm not giving them up. They're
You
very nice.
should. You should be nice. You should share with your sister.
Mm, mm-mm. Too,
We still have like
too
8
nice.
questions, but I think that's actually a really good place to end here, unless anybody wants to address the question themselves that hasn't had a chance to.
I guess going back to what inspires you, because I don't think I got asked. I honestly go on Instagram and look at pretty pictures people paint of people, and it gives me ideas. Because it's like I can look at something and be like, I can make a character out of that. I can make a backstory for this. Because I've been working on and off. It's been mostly off these days. On a mini campaign of sorts, kind of a one-shot deal that's been heavily inspired by Alice in Wonderland. But it's like at this point, I'm kind of giving up because it's just like there's so many elements I want to include, but while I'm taking breaks from that, I'm going into Serial. I want to make a character mode. And Instagram is a great place to look for pictures.
Very nice.
Well, we'll be back next Monday with perhaps the conclusion, perhaps part 1 of the conclusion of our current campaign. And very soon after that, we will be starting our epic level campaign, which is a 22 through 30 campaign for some older characters, some newer characters. Jesse, can you remind the viewers the publisher of that source material?
Epic Legacy by 2C Gaming.
Yes, it is
When
great.
we do get to that, and when we do get to that, that will be in the description of the YouTube videos, so you don't have to come back and look at this when we're running that.
And I have looked through that book. I think I even maybe was the one who brought it to you, Jesse. Is that right?
I do not recall.
But yeah, I love it, and I'm excited to play through this. I'm excited to finish this campaign because I have not been able to look through the bad guys and DM's guide for the epic level since Jesse decided he was going to run there. Any other questions or sign-offs? Anybody want to plug anything that they like they've been listening to or watching recently?
Just Laughing Lich Corporation is really good.
Yep.
I hear they're a
Yeah.
bunch of
I've
dorks.
watched them a lot recently.
Also curious if people what other streaming platforms you guys like. I know Twitch is going through a lot of changes right now, so I was just kind of thinking about other platforms that might be cool that aren't as populated as Twitch. So just curious what
good.
other people think.
Okay. I have no opinions, but if anyone has one, drop it in the town hall in our Discord.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, thanks everybody for coming and participating in this round table here. I would love to have more of these as time permits as we go on. I just have fun shooting the shit, and we can have more on a narrower set of topics to sort of really dive into something. Liked it? Do the YouTubey things, leave a like and subscribe and comment to show engagement and all that jazz that everybody here knows I'm really bad at asking for. So.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night,
night.
everybody.
Bitches get laid.
I'm sorry, we're still on. Did you say get?
Good luck, Jer.